Coffee with Cal.
Isn't it nice to have a cup of coffee, isn't it, Pop?
Yes, it's lovely to be here with you.
Oh, and hello, friends. Today I am here with retired Senior Sergeant Philip Knight, my Pop, of course. So, tell me a bit of your life in the police force in your days.
Okay, thank you. It's great to be here, Callan. It's my pleasure to see that you're interested in policing, and particularly seeing your daddy's a police officer, and so is your mummy.
Can you tell me about your career in the police?
Yes. Have we got a couple of days? But we can cut it pretty short. I was off the land. I was a farmer, and worked very hard as a young person. I left school early, so I didn't have much education, which today is very important. And I couldn't see myself getting ahead, just being a. Whoops! We just had a bit of a.
Cut it out! Cut it!
Yeah, on your
Cut it. Well, we just had a little hiccup, and when I say little, I mean a big hiccup. Thanks, Mum.
Yeah, sorry.
Well,
my
let's carry
coffee.
I
on.
was off the land. I was a farmer. I did many things on the farm. Sowed crops, grew crops, shore sheep, worked in the shearing sheds, worked on the properties. But I wasn't really happy, because I couldn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life. I wanted to do something different, and I didn't have a very good education at school. I was a sportsman at school instead of being a scholar, and I think you're going to be both, which is good. The police recruitment truck used to go around the country looking for young country blokes and ladies to want to join the police force. So it came to Dubbo. So I went in and had an interview and filled out all the forms, and sure enough, I then had to go. I was accepted, providing I passed the test. So the time came, and we decided to go to the country. Didn't like to
Take
sit.
them off, Callan. Oh dear.
We didn't really like the city and didn't think there was going to be a future for us. But in the couple of years that I was at Manly, I joined the surf club, and I became a part of the boat crew. Became qualified as a surf lifesaver, and so then a position came up back in Dubbo, which I was told about. So I put in for that, and we transferred back to Dubbo. We were back amongst our friends. I had a couple of years at Dubbo, which I went back playing football there, and we had a good social life. And then I was away one day with a senior officer. We're going around inspecting all the police stations out in the outskirts of Dubbo, and he said to me, "Don't you come from Mendoran?" And I said, "Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact." He said, "Well, the position's coming up there very short." He said, "We're looking for someone to go over there." And we had 4.5 years there at Mendoran. I was the only police officer there. So time came for my promotion. So they offered me Gilgandra, which was quite close by. And that's where Nan and I went over there. I was the lock-up keeper. I lived on the premises at the police station all the time. And I could be called out any time, 24 hours of the day, even on my days off. Lots of motor vehicle accidents, and some of them very serious accidents. I think in my 7 years stationed there that I went to 13 accidents where people were killed, and some of those, there was more than one person killed in those accidents, so that was quite horrific. Some local people as well. And also, there was a helicopter crash, and I think your father might have told you. If he hasn't, he probably will.
Yes.
Up in the mountains, not far away, like your big mountains here, a helicopter crashed and burnt, and two survived, and I got called to that. So we had to walk up. We couldn't drive. We had to walk up all through the scrub to this crash site. Anyway, we got up. Me and my mate got up there, and we're looking around. Where's this helicopter? We could see where it came down through the trees, but because they're all aluminium, it caught on fire. and it was only a little thing about as big as this table. That's all that was left of the helicopter. Okay, I had to leave Gilgandra because I was going to be promoted to a sergeant. So we looked around and found a spot down at Barrel, down the Southern Highlands, which is a long, long way away from here. And I had 10 years down there. Your dad and Auntie Kylie, they went through school and got out into the work. But Nan and I didn't want to stay there. It was too bloody cold. And a position came up back up near Dubbo, a little place called Wellington. So I applied for that, and I got that big boss up at Dubbo offered me a job to go up to Dubbo. So I was quite happy about that because I didn't have to travel any further down to Wellington. And by that time, a few injuries had started to catch up with me. I had a bad back, a bad knee, a bad neck. My hearing was bad, so I thought about retiring from the police force. So I went and got assessed by all the medical people, and they said, yes, you've got enough injuries, you shouldn't be at work. So I went out on a police pension. I was only 54.
You had a long story there in the police force. What was the best part about being a police officer?
Cameron, there were many good things, but it was very interesting. You didn't know what was going to happen. Each day you went to work, anything could happen. So you weren't doing the same thing over and over and over. So it was, I wouldn't say it was exciting, but it kept you very interested. Also, being able to help people that were in trouble, that came to the police with various problems that they weren't able to solve themselves. And it was really good, particularly with families where kids were involved, for us to be able to help them and get other assistance for them. We got a lot of pleasure out of that.
Can you think of any funny stories?
Oh yeah, probably had a few. We did have a lot of fun to break the stress of being a police officer. Played a lot of practical jokes on one another, and a couple come to mind when I was stationed at Dubbo. The detectives had an office upstairs, and they just brought out these big water coolers, big glass things with water, and they had a towel wrapped around it to stop the water from going green with algae. So me and another bloke one night, we used to have these big green frogs in the toilets there, and we grabbed one of these green frogs and we took it up and we put it in the water cooler. Anyway, for weeks later they'd been drinking away out of this water cooler with the frog in, and didn't know the frog was there until they went to fill it back up again and looked in, and this old frog was having a great old time in there. Yeah, so that was quite funny. And also at Dubbo, of a night time, the possums used to come in from next door at the courthouse. They were very, very quiet. They'd come and eat out of your hand. We used to feed them on fruit, apples and some bread. And there was a cranky old sergeant there, and his office was nearby. So a couple of us decided to get this possum, and we put him in with some louvers up above the door. So we pulled those out. We put this possum in the sergeant's office. And of course, next day when he came in, there was possum poo and papers and everything scattered everywhere, so we thought that was a bit of a joke. And another time, I think it was when I was at Mendura, there was a car and a caravan tipped over into the river, just out of town. So no one was hurt in it, luckily, and the water was only about 3 feet deep. So I get out there.
So about this high?
Yeah, about that deep. And so I get out there, and the people were out of the car. We're trying to salvage some of their clothes and all that sort of stuff. And so I opened up the door of the caravan, and because the caravan had flipped over, all the food and everything had all come out of the cupboards, and the food out of the fridge was all over the floor. And as it was floating down, here's this chook, which they'd had on a plate, sitting in the fridge, and this chook's floating down the river. Yeah, so that was quite hilarious.
What did you find the hardest thing to deal with in the police?
Well, as your mummy and daddy would know, being experienced police officer, it's usually violence or motor vehicle accidents or people assaulting and severely injuring other people and their children as well, and young children suffering. from violence from their parents and other people. That was very traumatic, and on the many occasions that we have to go and tell a mother and father that they've lost one of their loved ones, that they've passed away either peacefully or tragically, that never gets easy. So there was always the traumatic side of things, but somebody had to pass that on and be with the people, and it falls down to the police officers.
What were friendships like in the police when you joined, and do you think they are different now?
Well, I'll answer the first part. Friendships were a big part of policing in the early days. We were like a family. We socialised together, we worked together, we socialised together, we played sport together. And because we had common things to talk about, we didn't used to like to talk to people, non-police people, about all the things we had to deal with. So, yeah, I still have friends now that I've had for 50 years. I've been 50 years. My 50-year reunion is coming up in July. So, some of those blokes that I graduated with, I'm still in contact with them. So they're lifelong friendships. Today, it's not quite the same, because particularly back when I did most of my service in the small country towns, you were part of the community as well, and you lived in the community. A lot of the police today are not like your mum and dad, they live close by to where they work, but there's other police that travel from outside, miles away, and they don't have that close-knit friendship with the police or with the community. So yes, it has changed. I don't say it's a bad thing, because you really need to have interest outside being a police officer today. You can't, if possible, live and breathe it 24 hours a day. So in that sense, it has changed a little bit, but I don't necessarily say that it's a bad change.
That was a good story about the friendships. Yeah. Please now got another question for you. Police today have all sorts of things like guns, tasers, batons, armour, and also cars, fast cars, yes, yeah, so on, to help them. What opponents did you have in the olden days?
Yes, well, when I look at
The olden days.
Mummy and Daddy, the things that they carry around on their belts, I'm quite amazed, really. All we had was a little baton about that long, a little rubber baton which was useless.
Seriously?
Yes.
Right in our days, I've seen my dad's work. I've seen my dad's work, and he's had his a little baton about that long, but you can pull it out and it makes it bigger.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's a reflection of how society has changed as well. Like back when I joined 50 years ago, police were respected, so we really didn't need a lot of that equipment, but we had a little 38 6-shot revolver, which I loved, and I was quite a good shot with that 6-shot revolver. We had a set of handcuffs, which were virtually the same as your mum and dad have got today.
So with this shotgun handgun, so how far do you think the distance was?
Oh, not very far, but you had to be pretty close, probably 20 metres at the most. The length of a cricket pitch was about the best for their accuracy. But I never, ever, I drew my pistol on a few occasions, but fortunately I wasn't required to use it and shoot anybody. Today we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't have mobile radio, so you could be way out somewhere and you wouldn't have any contact with anybody whatsoever. So you had to be really work smart and look after yourself, because you had no one to call for backup. Nowadays, gee, when I see particularly the car that your father drives, that's like a mobile computer room.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really fast video. Dad said it goes about 300 k.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. And all the other technologies that they have, they've got body
Yep.
vests,
Bodyguard,
Yeah.
expanding guns,
Expanding battens.
battens.
yeah. A gun that can fire 17 shots, a taser.
They have a taser.
Do they have hand grenades yet?
I don't know.
That's probably next.
Yeah. But they actually don't have. My dad, he has a gun that has 15 shots.
15, is it? Okay. All right. I'm not too sure.
They have tasers. They also have secret cameras
Yes,
and
yes.
microphones.
That's right. Which is very, very handy.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
because if they're dealing with a person, they don't know that they have cameras and
Yes.
microphones in them. Because
That's right.
if they're talking to a police about something,
Yes.
and they do something to the police,
Yep.
the other police know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly
Because
right.
they
And
can
it's
see.
there on camera
Yeah,
too.
too.
Yeah. No, that technology is very, very good. And the radio system now is so much better.
Yeah.
All that technology helps, and mainly because society has changed.
Yeah.
Our society now is a lot more violent towards police than it was in my day. So they have to be better trained and try and work together as a team, particularly at night time, when usually, unfortunately, the bad things happen. So I'd like to be able to use all the modern equipment that they have today. We had manual typewriters, we didn't have computers, we didn't have tape recorders or anything like that.
Was there a time that you were in a place that you were really, really scared of?
Yes, yeah, there were quite a few actually. Night time was the worst. When you go to a warehouse or a situation where you knew some bad people were, you didn't know whether they were armed, they'd be hiding. I can recall one night we went into a warehouse and we knew these people, the crooks were still in there because they hadn't come out and they were hiding in there somewhere, so we had to go around and find them. And it was an upstairs part of it where they had furniture and big boxes and everything stored. So I went up there with a torch and I'm looking around and I knew this person was up there somewhere, and he crawled into a big cardboard box and pulled the top closed. And as I was walking around, I just saw it move a little bit, and I tell you what, I was scared that night. I was only a very junior constable at that stage.
Oh, so did you think that was a ghost?
No, I knew it was a bad person in there, but luckily I was able to kick the box over and get him, and he wasn't armed.
So it's a bit like extreme hide and seek.
Well, it is being a police officer. Yeah, the baddies run away and hide, and the goodies have got to go and find them, haven't they?
I love cars. My favourites are V8s, turbocharged V8s. Yeah, they go very really fast. Yeah, but of course you had to have some heaps of cars in your days.
Yes.
Over the years. So can you tell me about the cars that you went with and what you did with them?
Yeah, well, certainly big difference from back then to what they are now. We had pretty standard cars, Holdens, Falcons. My favourite was a Ford truck called an F-150.
I've heard of it.
Yes, they're still very popular
I've
today
heard of
actually.
it because someone at my school, she said that his dad with the F1 truck 50
Yeah.
ran over her water bottle, and it was like it was a big dent. Like her water bottle was like about that
Yeah.
long, and it was about that thick.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there was like a massive dent like that.
yeah. No, they were a good all-round
Stop,
vehicle.
that's my-
But nowadays, cars are much bigger, faster. Like the car that your dad drives at work, it's very powerful, and it's very good on the road. It handles extremely well on the road as well. So even though it's a big, powerful car, it is a safe car to drive. And I've had a couple of rides in it, and I tell you what, I love it. I'd like to have one.
Do you think if I drove that V8 right now, I would be a good driver?
No,
Why
certainly
not?
not. No, be too strong and powerful
Oh
for you.
yeah, because on the Xbox 360, I played this game, and
Yeah,
I
I know,
tried
I
these
saw you.
cars, and I
Yeah.
got I'm gonna drift.
Yeah, I know you crashed most of them.
It's a pleasure having you two have here now. Now, let me look. Look at the time. You need to get out of here right now. I need to do my paperwork.
Okay, you've got lots of paperwork to catch up
Get out
on.
of here.
Okay, it's been my pleasure speaking with you too, Callum.
No, get it. Yeah. Now get out of here. I need to do some paperwork.
Okay, well, I'm
Someone
off.
give me a pencil.
There you go.